I, Neelam Chaudhary, Headmistress, Sage International School, Ayodhya Nagar, welcome you all to the Sage Talk. As a trend, let me introduce you all with the Sage group. So here goes an AV. Thank you. Now I would like to welcome Speaker of the Day, Ms. Akanshi Srivastava. She is an product engineer in Android developer, currently working at Gojek in the UX engineering team. She likes to work on UI UX design and mobile app development. She is interested in public speaking and has contributed to Stack Overflow and several open source projects. She has won multiple national and international hackathons and is an ambassador for Women Tech Maker by Google Girl Script India and a global ambassador for Women Tech Network. She has also been a mentor in different community events. She likes empowering women, problem solving, and logical reasoning along with good music. I welcome you, ma'am. Over to Akanshi, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Akanshi Shrestha. Hope you're all having a great time. And today I'm going to be talking about the importance of UI, UX in mobile applications. And before I do that, let's just quickly move on to a little introduction about myself. So I'm Akanshi, currently working as a product engineer, Android developer at Gojek in the UX engineering team. And I've been working on UI UX for quite some time, been participating in hackathons. And apart from that, I've been contributing to open source, to Stack Overflow, and I am recently going to start writing my own blogs. You'll soon see my blogs, and I'll definitely like to share it with you guys. And about community presence, like as ma'am mentioned, I've been part of Women Tech Makers. I'm still a part of Girl Script. I'm also a global network for Women Tech Networks. And I like to participate in hackathons. I remember participating in an hackathon called PenApps. It was organized by University of Pennsylvania. And out of thousands of people who participated from all over the world, a few thousands were invited to go to US and participate in the final round. I was a privilege there in the hackathon. And apart from that, recently last year, I participated in a hackathon named SheHack. It was organized by Gojek. At that time, I was not an employee of that company. I was working at Ola. And I was the only team there with just one member. And it was like, again, an honor to participate in the hackathon. I won the second place. And that is how I got my job. My manager was luckily one of the judges in the judging panels, and he offered me to come for the interviews, and that is how I got to be, become a part of Gojek. And let me tell you one thing, especially for students, like when you ask other people, why is it important to have a community presence? Trust me, your studies are important, but equally your interests are important. What are you working on? Like it all shows in your interest through your community presence. For example, when I was a student in CSE, I was focusing on my DSAs, on my programming, like usually how IT people or CSE people do in their college life. But apart from that, I started gaining interest in Android development as well. I started making sure that I was participating in hackathons, doing online courses, which proves that, okay, all right, eventually in my resume, it will show that, okay, I had interest in this field. I started contributing in this field. And that is what has helped me to gain knowledge in that field, to get so many offers, or to actually land the dream job. So I actually recommend this to everyone to start attending meetups. It's never too late. Go and start attending meetups, start events like this one. And I'm really glad that you're all here. Maybe more events in future will also help you get more insight about how these things work. And so now let's without a further ado, let's move on to our today's agenda. I'm going to be discussing about why it is important to have a good, well-designed UI and UX in an Android application or in any mobile application per se. So four main things that we'll be covering here is what is UI and UX, and what are the key components of a design process, and what is the importance and the best practices that are followed when we're designing. And final thing is the deliverables that these things offer to our application. Now talking about UI and UX, I'm pretty sure you all must have heard these terms multiple times. Whenever there's some presentation by some big company, they're talking about their products. They're saying, okay, we have made such a UI, or we're focusing on our user experience this time. So what does this mean? And these terms go along together everywhere. You will not see just UI or UX, only being standalone there in an application. The products like to say that, okay, we have a combination of UI and UX together in an app. So what are these two? What are the difference between these two, and why they should be focused on together? So basically a UI is what you see in your app, your design layout, your basic skeleton of your app. So as it says that it aims towards, an easy, enjoyable and effective interaction. It makes sure that you understand and see what all the elements are there in your application. That is your user interface, your UI. Secondly, the next thing is user experience. Your experience with the application, when you're interacting with your application, how it responds back to you, how you're responding back to the things that your application is telling you. That is known as the experience. So for example, if you're trying to submit a form and you enter, okay, submit button, and then suddenly it's showing you an error and you understand that error and then you fix it. That is called an experience, an interaction between the app and you. You understand what the app is trying to say, and the app understands what you are trying to do. So this is also very important. And that is why it said that it's different and get together. So whenever a product is designed, it's made sure that it has a good UI and a good UX. So now let's take a small example of an app which has only a good UI. You might look at an app in a Play Store. Sometimes you might download an app. And also, by the way, I want this session to be interactive. If you agree with me, do react with a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, make sure you raise your hand. And yeah, so continuing, I was just talking about the importance of UI and UX. So you must have seen these apps on Play Store, which look beautiful. You want to download those apps and see what is there, what is the function, or maybe some app which looks amazing in the screenshots that are there on the Play Store. But when you download, when you open, it's a total disappointment. You're not able to interact, you're not able to experience. Has that happened to any of you ever? Okay, I'm assuming yes, it has.
Yes.
All right. Now let's move on to another example. Sometimes there are some apps which look very dull, which look very basic, but they get your job done. So that means the experience is amazing, but the UI was not at all good. Now, if you're like just judging an app by how it looks and then planning to download it, you will never download that app unless someone comes and tells you, okay, you know what, it looks not so good, but it gets the job done. So then maybe you might think, okay, at least my work is getting done, I will download it. So that is having a good UX, but not a good UI. And that is why it's important that we have an app which has a good UI and a good UX, right? Now let's move on to discussing a few key components of design. Main components are its usability, information architecture, interaction design, wireframing, and visual design. So why are these things important? So for example, let's talk with information architecture. So now, let's start with an example that you open an app and maybe it just asks for your details to log in. Then you submit and then you're able to access everything inside the app. Now, what happens if you're not able to log in at all? Or maybe you log in and after logging, it's taking you to a a sign up page, but you just logged into your app. Why it's taking you to the sign up page? That's really confusing, right? So that happens when the navigation is not set up properly. The architecture is a little messed up. Or maybe, when the first page, when you want the user to land on your application, you want the user to see your products or what the app is offering. Instead of that, if I say, for example, if I just log into my app and I just show the checkout screen, the first thing, and I just say, oh, you have nothing in your cart, now go and add things to your cart. Will that be a good user experience? I don't think so. Because in that case, you're just saying, okay, you don't have anything in your cart. But what things? What is your app offering? If I don't know your products, how will I add anything to my cart, right? So that is why it's important that the architecture is set up very properly. Also, now let's take an example here that you log in and your login fails. Then you say forget password. Then it should technically take you to a page where you're able to reset your password. It should not take you to a page which asks you to sign up again or something. So this is all designed. This is all pre-planned, and this is called a good information architecture, that a browser, how you're browsing, how you're navigating is actually properly set, and it is irrespective of what the user is doing. It should not be like that, okay, you're supposed to click on login, but you clicked on something else, so now it's your problem. That is not the case. We as a developer, as a designer, should make sure that there is always a fallback situation to help our users come out of the problems that they are facing. If they are stuck in some position, they should always be able to click on the back button and come to the previous page. This is all called information architecture. Now, secondly, we have another thing called interaction design. So these designs, all right, let's take another example now. We have an application, and our application has, say, two primary colors on the first page, your white and blue. Now you move on to the second page, it has green and black. Third page, red and white. Will that look consistent to you? Will that actually look like a part of one app? It won't, right? So that is because your interaction design is not set properly. Interaction design is very important because it helps you to identify the colors, the icons, the fonts, images, everything in your application. You would always want your app to have the same font across the application, to have the same colors across the application, for the same aesthetics. It should have the same or a similar design, a uniformity across screens. And that is important because you want to make sure that it looks like a part of one app as a whole. It looks like a part of one. It looks like and third part is its usability. Now, talking about usability, what does usually comes in our mind? Okay, going by the word, it means that you're able to use the app, how the user is able to use the app. But how many times have you seen a developer or if say Flipkart has launched their app, Flipkart is going to each user and tell them how to use? Is that the case? Or there are so many apps you have downloaded, but you have always figured them out on your own, right? Nobody has come to you or told you or explained you how to actually use that app. So why is that the case? Because the usability is set properly. If you're opening an app and you're not able to figure out, and most of the users are not able to figure out how to use the app, then it's called a poor usability in that case. Also, it is very important that you set the usability according to your users. So for example, say if you have a very, very well designed app and it's in English, it looks amazing, but you're then distributing it to farmers. It will be very difficult for them to perceive the elements on the screen, to understand the language, to understand everything going along with, new and latest designs, new latest animations. They would and which they that usable that your users are able to use it today. Now coming on to wireframing. So wireframing is the next step, or it's also in one of the important steps. It helps you to decide what your screens might look like. And the main purpose of actually wireframing is that it helps your developers also to, look at the wireframes and decide how the application should look like. And it also helps the testers to test whether it's actually working fine with the clients, with the other people, and if they are actually not facing any problems. So testers have to have not like people already know the product. They pretend to be the people who don't know the product. They're using it for the first time, and then they report back with all the problems that they faced in their application. So that is why wireframing is important. It is nothing solid. It is a very intermediate step, and it helps you to understand, okay, just a rough overview of what your product will look like, what your app will look like. And the last thing is visual design. So visual design is a key component. It helps you to, enhance the UI UX. It helps you to make it look better. It helps your users to get attracted to your app, to get attention or to focus on the things that you want them to focus on. So that is why visual design is very important. And you must have seen many illustrations used by several teams, many fancy used by several teams, and sometimes the colors and the way the text is written. Some people use memes, some people use some sarcastic language. So that is their way of attracting focus from the users. And that is all focused on the kind of customers they're actually focusing on. Right. So let's move on to the importance of UI UX. So and contributing to our importance. Now, like how we discussed about UI UX, it is very important to also understand the importance. If I don't have UI, all will happen. In this, I will just say, which nobody would be, interested at looking at, or maybe would not find that fun to interact with. And that is why let's just go through these key components, the key points of why it is important to have a good UI UX. So what does a good UI UX do to your app? It is very important, especially when you want a good and good look, it has a good way, it takes you back to it again. So especially as students and people who are active on social media, can you all just tell me how much time usually you spend on Instagram? Like around how many minutes? I'm pretty sure it's over 30 minutes for most of us. But Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, a lot of time, right? Like a more time goes into just scrolling through our applications and trying to understand, okay, what all things are there, what is new, what's happening in the world. And similarly, when you go to YouTube, a lot of time is hello.
Hello. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
I'm so
You are
sorry. Am
audible.
I
Yes, you are audible. Only
yeah,
presentation
okay.
disappear.
Okay,
You are
okay.
audible.
1 second. It there now?
Yeah, yeah. It has started.
All right.
Yes, yes, it is.
So, all right. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, talking about a good impression, it's very important. So, I was just discussing about how much time we spend on Instagram, or maybe a simple app like Candy Crush. So, Candy Crush is like a very attractive, colorful app, and the UI is amazing, the UX is amazing, and people just usually, whenever they're bored, just take out their phones and spend hours on Candy Crush, or maybe things like Subway Surfers, or maybe some other games and apps. So that is basically because your user is attracted to the app because of the good UI and UX. Now, like as I said, we all get addicted to these apps. We become the loyal customers to these apps, and that is how the apps gain
ऐसे
revenue
सलाद
through
रखे हो उन्हें
ads.
गिलास रखे हो फिर
Whenever we see these ads, or maybe we tend to fall into these ads, maybe make some in-app purchases. So these all these add to the revenue for our application. So we all tend to become a loyal customer to the app. And in the long run, this really helps as a developer and designer, because whenever you have to launch another update, or whenever you have to, once you already have everything up to date, maybe the latest design, the latest UI, and the latest UX, then whatever you have to update or changes you have to make, take the actually the least efforts, the minimal efforts in that case. So that saves a lot of time and a lot of cost. So you're always able to stay on the top of it, and it doesn't happen that you're lagging behind in terms of design, in terms of interactions, anything. Now, talking about the best practices, yes. Now, how many times have you noticed across Google Apps that they all have a button on the corner? In a calendar app, that same button will help you add another event. In the Gmail app, that same button will help you add another, or maybe write a new mail. The same button in the Google Drive app will help you add or upload another picture. So that is the same button being used across products, but it's serving different purposes. So that is because they want to maintain uniformity across their apps, and they're using a conventional element. So what does conventional elements actually mean? Using an element or using an icon which already what's the users know what purpose it serves. So you know that whenever you're going to click on plus, it's going to add something new, maybe a new mail or a new calendar event or a new photo to my drive. That is why that plus button indicates that you're adding something. Now, like about other element, maybe all must have seen the message icon in your phones. What does it used to look like? An envelope with the letter popping out. That is what messages look like in most of our phones. And when you open any application, you see that if you have any messages inside the app, that also looks like a message or a letterbox or an envelope. And similarly, now because the times are changing, that envelope like gradually evolved to a chat bubble, because most of our messages started, getting exchanged through messages. So through chat, so it actually evolved to a chat bubble. So this always means that that chat bubble and that message is always going to hold its position, its meaning as something which conveys or which depicts a message. It is never going to be like, okay, you want to write a new mail, you click on that letter. It will always mean that it is a message. It will never mean that you can check your notifications by clicking on that message. Similarly, now talking about notifications, you will always notice there's a small bell, and a bell usually has a notification number or dot on top to indicate that you have new notifications, right? So these icons, they have served a purpose for so long that they have become conventional. It has become very common for us to understand and to keep them as something that the user must product. It is very important to use the conventional elements, because now we don't want users to waste their times in trying to first understand what the icon means and then click on it. We don't want the user to even waste a second on understanding what the icon means. That will break the flow, the interest of what the user was doing in the product. Secondly, maintaining uniformity, as we were just discussing. It is very important to maintain uniformity with respect to your colors, with respect to your typography, with respect to your spacing, and with respect to your design skeleton, your wireframes, everything. Your product should look uniform across, and it should come together as a whole. It should not look like bits and pieces of different products being put together, right? And the third thing is you should make it interactive. It's very important that whenever you're trying to work on an app, it's actually responding back to your actions. If there is something wrong, that it's responding back. If there's something correct or something right that you did, it's responding back. So for example, if you play the 10 years, you think that it should not like, okay, something in the background. User, it is very important for us to understand these things. But especially when you're trying to make your parents or your grandparents use the apps, they usually come and tell you, okay, you know, this happened automatically. Nothing happens in an app automatically, but usually with time, maybe, you know, they're not able to perceive these interactions that well, that they clicked on the button and the button actually was pressed, or maybe they clicked too soon, or they clicked for a very long time and the button did not get pressed. So unless it shows that bounce button that it got pressed in your app, that actually shows that, okay, the button was pressed and your action was done. So this will never cause a confusion like, how did my, you know, my job got done in this. Yeah. How, you know, of our app. All right. Okay. So if app is not responding back or the user is not responding back, it might look like that they're not interacting. That is not what we want in our case. Now, important thing is that we don't want to complicate our designs. We don't want the user to get confused, not understand anything. And we want to maintain our focus on very limited things. So we want that, you know, whenever our user is working on the app, they lose focus. So say, for example, if Amazon wants you to, you know, place an order for something and you're on your way to placing an order, you selected something, add it to your cart, then you're going to check out, and then suddenly there's something popping up on your screen, maybe some offer or something or some other product. So you just leave your cart. You were always about to make payment, but then something else got your attention. You moved out of focus and you just went to that product, and then you started looking at that, and then it through that. So what happened? It hampered your process of placing the order. about to check, but you actually lost focus. You see out screens other more things because you want to get out of the how is that by making the payment, and that is how the products actually get you to make the payment to somebody in the plan, right? And let's move on. So what are these deliverables usually are? So whenever you're working on UX, you would want you would expect a certain things from UI and a certain things from UX. We've been talking about UI UX in general a lot. So let's focus on UI separately, on what all things fall under UI and what all things fall under UX. So UI deliverables, whenever you're working on a good UI, you want to make a good UI, there are three main things that you have to focus on. First is a mood board, second is a visual design, and third is a design prototype. So a dynamic prototype of the design. So let's talk about mood board. Mood boards are a generic term, not only centric around our applications, they are also centric around our like usual moods, or whenever you're writing a diary or maintaining a journal, trying to make a painting. So what falls under the that you use, the fonts that you're going to use, and basically at this side of the font is the type size of the text thing that I want to use in my app. So that is called a mood board. So here, if you look, I took this example. Here it's like they wanted to make a small app for their hotel. So they said, okay, these are some colors that we want to use, and all the images usually that they've selected fall under this color scheme. And similarly, this is a very small example of a mood board. Similarly, you can also have another mood board where you select the colors and a font, right? And the second thing is a visual design. So a visual design is basically from our mood boards and our wireframes that we discussed vision, they're able to see and understand if they're actually good enough and if they're looking good together or not, and if they are see to dynamic prototyping. So what dynamic prototyping does is that once you visualized a couple of screens, you go on making a few more all the apps. So we China all the pages, you create a prototype and then so here if you look at the examples, so on the bottom menu, on so and so option, it will take you to so and so screen, or clicking on something, or canceling will take you back, and maybe next will take you to next screen. So this is all done through a few apps. There's a couple of tools which are available online for you to understand how dynamic prototyping works, and we understand navigation and the order in which the screens are going to appear. And moving on to UX deliverables, it is also very important, and there are many tools which will also help you, prototype your UX deliverables. So first thing is your user persona. So so for example, if you have an app which is made for the bank employees, then only the bank employees will be able to understand, and you then only the university student and the teachers and the faculty members and the staff members will be able to access and understand that app. So the user persona is basically, in this case, the people who are going to use that app. And secondly is the user journey. So user journey also is important to define how the user will be going about when they're working in the app. So what all places are they going to fall in, and what are the ways that they can fall into that situation. So that is a user journey. So say for different tasks, for example, if you want to add something to your for your shopping app, say if you want to add something to your cart, or you want to check out, or you want to delete some product, these things will have different user journeys. So these are all your user journey items, and then you define how to go from opening your app to completing that user journey. And the third thing is an interactive prototype. Your interactive prototype is very similar to having an app in your phone. It's like a demo app for your phone, where you can define and you can actually make a couple of users or test users work on that prototype, and then decide whether it's a good app for your users to use or not. Now let's move forward. I have this small quote which Benjamin Franklin put forward. He said that you tell me and I will forget, show me and I may remember, but if you involve me and I will understand. So here, this is the perfect thing that falls for our application. If you just show, that means you just have a good UI, then the user might forget. If you just tell them about, they might forget. Just the design, but if the experience that design, you may make the user experience product, they will understand and they will become your loyal customers. So now let's discuss. Can I have you all turning on your mics? Are we all here?
Tanu ma'am, please unmute so that students can ask questions if they have. Ma'am, first I would like to ask a few things
Yes, please.
from all of us. How would you suggest our students so that they can develop themselves in app development? What step they should follow, they should take if in case they are interested in app development?
All right. So app development is not rocket science. It's very easy. You can take up some online courses to understand how it goes about. And a personal tip from my experience is that you don't wait for the course to end. You start developing right away. So as and when you're learning, you're implementing, that will help your coordination of learning and implementing. Because these things are core. App is like evolving every minute. New updates and versions come up every month or every couple of months, right? So you would want that you have the abilities to match that update. So it's very important that you learn and you implement. If these things go together, you'll be able to experience and your doubts will be cleared maybe by learning more or by interacting. So these things are very important. I suggest that you try platforms like Stack Overflow. You try courses by Coursera or courses by Udacity, or there's another course by JetBrains. So these app development courses will also help you. You also install Android Studio on your laptop and start with development right away. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Any other audience would like to ask question to ma'am? Anybody? You can type in chat box if you wish.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening. I'm the mother. Yeah. I just wanted to know, like, you're telling so many things, and it's a bit difficult to grasp because you are into the technicalities we are not that much into.
Okay.
So can we have some PDF or something like that which we can read and understand it slowly?
Yeah, definitely. I would ask the team to share this with you.
Yes,
and I hope, I'm also going to share my details in the end. So if you feel like you have any doubts or if you want to reach out to me,
yes,
please feel free to message me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and or maybe mail me, and I will definitely try to get back and help you out with this.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Because the voice is also cracking because of the network issues, so somewhere we are not able to hear the complete part which you are telling it so nicely and so beautifully.
It's perfectly fine. I totally understand. So I will be asking the team of the Sage University to share this with you.
Okay.
And hopefully I will also be able to help you out.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other question anybody has? Anyone else? From teachers, anyone would like to ask? Gaurav sir, would you like to ask anything? Madhuri ma'am, Gaurav sir.
I know it might, feel a little bit difficult.
It was all technical actually.
So, but it's okay if you want anything else to, if you have any other questions related to how these things can help you in career development, or because I'm also a graduate from 2019 batch from VIT University, and I graduated from CS, and since then I've switched 3 jobs, and I finally actually landed a job where I am satisfied with the work and the work culture, and it is of my interest. So if you have any questions related to placements or how these things can help you, get into placements and stuff, you can do that as well. Please feel free to.
Ma'am, I myself would ask if no audience is
Sure.
interested. I myself is from this field only. So as I teach them computers, I get to, face this difficulty that these days students are, less interested in learning basic language, language fundamentals. Rather, they just want to jump to, coding. As these days, everything is, verbal commands. On verbal commands, they can code.
That's
So
true.
how would we encourage them for this?
Okay, so I'll give you a very small example of this. Honestly, like I was also a student who was into programming languages. I started with computer science C++ in class 11, 12. And then I got into programming language more, C++, a little bit of Python and stuff. And then I moved on to Android development. But I made sure that my fundamentals were clear. So how it helped me was when my degree came closer, like I was in my final years, the fundamentals were like what helped me understand the subjects. And trust me, it might not seem important right now, but when you go to your work life, no matter what language you're using, no matter what you're working on, these fundamentals will always come in handy. It's very important to understand because you will be working with someone else on someone else's code. And these people write a code in such a manner that everybody who's working on it is able to understand. So they make sure the fundamentals are followed for everyone to maintain a uniformity, right? So I would suggest that you all take a little more time out and try to at least understand the fundamentals that your teacher is trying to explain it to you. And trust me, you might feel it like, it's not going to be another situation of where are you going to find congruent triangles in your real life, but this will actually really help you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Ma'am?
ma'am. Thank you. Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, Madhuri ma'am, please go
Good
ahead.
evening, ma'am. Ma'am, what do you think about the future growth on Android app? Like these days, we are studying online. So, what do you think, ma'am?
I think your voice got stuck, but I think your question was mainly about asking the future of Android applications, right? So Android, I think, is going to play a very important role in future, especially because now everything is becoming a little more technical, and people are moving from off screens to on screens. Many companies have, like made a work from home for their companies, for their products permanent. So it's like you're all moving to platforms which are more software oriented. And when we talk about software oriented platforms, there are two things that come in mind. Either it's your web platform or your mobile platform. So these two are going to play a very important role in future. This is going to help you automate a lot of things. This is all like, you must have seen AR and VR coming up, and you must have seen how ML. So these are all going to have a very important and a strong impact in future. So if you're into something like Android development, you might, you might have to learn a few technologies with time, but it's not like it's going to run out or, burn out very soon. And I have a very small example for this. So a couple of years back, we used to work with Java in Android development. So when I was in college, after learning my C++, I moved on to Java. And because I worked on the fundamentals, it was not very difficult for me to grab and to understand Java, right? But when I came into my work life and I started working on projects, they told me that the new language adopted by Google for Android development is Kotlin. So Kotlin is like a different language in itself now. So now I had to learn Kotlin for my work. But again, because my fundamentals were clear, I actually got to, it took me a couple of weeks to understand a whole new language. And now I'm working in that particular language. So it's like these mobile things are going to, evolve eventually. We have Flutter. Earlier, we used to develop Android apps separately, iOS app separately, web apps separately. Now, Flutter is a platform that you develop all these apps together. You have to just app, you can launch it on iOS, Android, and on web. So it's like these things are always going to come up, but I think it's a very small possibility that we might, stop using Android apps in future. So I think it has a pretty strong future. If you're working with the fundamentals and taking everything along, it will be very easy to keep up. I hope
Thank
that
you.
answers your question,
Yes,
Madhuri.
yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Another question, Kanchi, from my side.
Sure,
These days during pandemic, we got to know that so many apps which people were not knowing are, made by China, and we were using it. Now we got a list of it, and they are completely banned. And still, we people, Indians, are not able to develop those, competent app like those. So, what do you see in that? Where are we lacking? What should we do further to improve this? And
so I personally feel that there are many apps even on are built by our Indian platforms, but when it comes to marketing and the government supporting these apps, or many other platforms supporting these apps, we fall back there. So for instance, when demonetization happened, everybody started promoting Paytm. So everybody was like, even our prime minister started promoting Paytm as an application. But when we did a background check on Paytm, it was not a completely Indian made app. Whereas that was a very good opportunity for us to promote some other Indian app, right? So I feel that we lack marketing more than development. We have amazing set of developers working in the country. And if you notice, most of the developers and the IT sectors that they're working, they work for foreign companies, for big foreign MNCs. And usually sometimes they also tend to go for MS to other countries and settle down there. So that is because IT is not given that importance in our country right now as it is to other in other countries. But I feel as our systems are changing a little bit, and our apps, these apps are getting banned, a few, like a few of them are getting banned, and few are getting a little bad shaming, or everything is happening. I feel if there are a set of people who are willing to work on these apps, and if they promote them properly, we will be able to have an app in every phone. Will be able to have some apps which have the basics of Indian development, or some Indian product at the back. So that is what I think, and it would be really amazing if we have some people here who would like to learn this, and maybe in a couple of years come up and develop an app. Please make sure you reach out to me. I would definitely like to try it out.
thank you, Akanshi. Another one question I would have.
Sure.
See, suppose a student of class 9th or 10th develops an app.
Yeah.
How he should go further to market it? Please guide.
Yeah, so I feel once you have an app, usually you have to launch it on Play Store. It's completely free to launch it on Play Store. You can just, you have to just upload and complete a couple of formalities and create an account on the console of Play Store, and then you can launch your app. Once you have your app launched, you can, like if you're a student, you can ask your schools to represent your app and to promote it on a bigger level. Then imagine having all the school students and having all the school students' parents or people in second contact using that app. So that is one way. Secondly, it's very important to market on social media these days because most of the people are active there. So having a couple of pages for your products and promoting it there, and asking other people to follow you back and promote it and at least try out the apps, it's very important. So I think that will also help. Third is because I believe, because as we mentioned, a class 9 student is trying to make that app, it would be also amazing that they consult a good UI UX professional, so that the app is up to date with the current UI UX standards. That will also help the app, to get promoted, to get highlighted, and it might actually get featured on Play Store. So if it's an outstanding app and if it gets featured on Play Store, then I think that is like the ultimate marketing, because Play Store itself is like promoting your app for free. So what else would you want, right? So I think you have to work a lot on your UI UX, your fundamentals, and make sure that it looks properly brushed and furnished. That's it.
Thank you, Akanshi. Thank you. Anyone else would like to ask any question from the audience?
Can I ask an answer?
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, actually, I wanted to learn Python language, and I don't know from where should I learn. So, which is the best way to learn a language? I'm very interested.
So I personally feel that if you want to learn a programming language and practice it out, you can go about doing it on platforms like HackerRank or HackerEarth. So HackerRank basically starts with the basic and then takes you to a very advanced level. And there you can, they have a tutorial on top and then they ask you to implement at the bottom. So when you're implementing alongside, understanding these things, this will actually help you grab these things again. As the quote I mentioned by Benjamin Franklin, that if you're able to interact with it, then you understand it. So once you're actually typing in those things and you're actually seeing your code getting into work, you'll be able to understand. So I feel if you pursue something like a course on HackerRank, or along with that, if you want, you can do a separate course, maybe on Coursera or Udacity or Udemy, something. So that will really help you to start with the basics of Python. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it has.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
All right.
And now we are, about to get this program over. So now I would like to thank Akanshi, Madam Akanshi. You very well explained so many terminologies like UI, UX, and so many things I heard the first time. So thank you so much for making all the audience aware of these terminology. We are very thankful, and on behalf of Sage Group, I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you so much, everyone.
Welcome, ma'am. I would like to present a digital certificate from Sage Group.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And you all have been an amazing audience. It was really fun interacting, and it was my honor to come here and to present this talk in front of everyone. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Akanshi, ma'am. Thank you, audience.
Thank you.